Please join us in welcoming President of Viator at TripAdvisor, Ben Drew, in discussion with Skift Head of Research, Seth Borko.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. So we've
Thank
got
you for having me.
Ben Drew. He's the president of Viator. 300,000 plus experiences, right?
That's right.
You're you're the largest experience travel site in the world, right?
Yes, 300,000 experiences, 50,000 tour operators that are powering those experiences, and we're seeing a great resurgence in this market post-pandemic.
So you're the guy to talk to about experiences and travel experiences. I just wanted to level set a bit for this audience because you're a big deal. TripAdvisor, I don't think people realize, so Viator is a subsidiary of TripAdvisor. I don't think people realize just how big Viator is within TripAdvisor. So I was struck. I was reviewing the quarterly earnings. TripAdvisor's core revenue, that's meta search and hotels, did $290 million. Viator did $245 million. So you're neck and neck with the core TripAdvisor business right now. How did that happen? 40% growth.
Oh, well, that's a combination of a lot of different things really coming together. I mean, we're operating in experiences in a market that has incredible secular tailwinds behind it. Everything from offline to online, shifting offline to online, the rise of the sort of millennial demographic cohort that values experiences over things. And by the way, that is the performance of Viator relative to TripAdvisor is also a team effort between TripAdvisor and Viator. We work together across the whole company to grow our divisions. So, we're very pleased with that performance, and it's down to a great many factors: the market, the teamwork within the company, and great execution on the part of the team.
Some mega trends on your side, you might say, right?
You might say.
Yeah. Kind of a cheeky question, a little Britishism there, right? I was doing some back of the envelope math. You're growing 40%, one of the fastest growing divisions in TripAdvisor. If you keep up this pace, by the end of this year or early next year, Viator might be bigger than the core TripAdvisor business. Is that scary? Are you going to pop champagne if that happens? What do you think about that?
I think it's great that Viator has that kind of trajectory, and like I say, it's a team effort that gets us there. And between all the different kind of business units and parts of the TripAdvisor entity, we serve travelers in a whole bunch of different ways. So yeah, we're pleased with the growth. We've got a lot more to do. We think we've really only just started. So, surpassing or going past some arbitrary milestone is not what we think about. It's how do we solve traveler problems, how do we solve supplier problems, and how do we do the best for our partners?
I'm going to ask you one more corporate question, and then we can move on to some of the consumer stuff. Because I want to be, again, fair to your corporate partners. Viator revenue, you're catching up, but Viator is not profitable, at least on a trailing 12-month basis. I know it was this most recent quarter. Is that something that worries you? Do you want Viator to be profitable, or are you okay kind of, as a team effort, like you say? Are you okay borrowing some of TripAdvisor's EBITDA and some other divisions?
Well, Viator could be profitable today. And the reason it isn't profitable today is because we are making a conscious choice to invest in growth, whether that's through marketing, or through product, through any other of the levers we have at our discretion. We're making a conscious choice to pull those levers, and that's resulting in the growth that you mentioned. And so in the long term, what we see is an evolution towards OTA-like margins. Yeah. We are an OTA. We have the same business model and the same or similar cost structure. And we've also said that in 2024, we will reach full year profitability, and we're already getting closer and closer to that. So, this is a long-term game. A big business is going to be built in this space. We think we're the ones to do it, and we see long-term margins that are comparable to OTAs. So it's well worth investing.
Yeah. So we'll come back to maybe some of those conversations about what you're building and what you're investing in. Let's transition to some proper Megatrends consumer data, because you've got a lot of that. So you have tours and experiences data all across the globe. Mm-hmm. Kind of open field here. What are you seeing? What regions, for instance, are you seeing the most growth in your customer base?
Regions. So the biggest growth in regions at the moment is in Asia, inbound to Asia, or Asian destinations, particularly the likes of Japan, is a real powerhouse of growth for to pick a particular country, Taiwan as well. And part of this is the recovery from the
Asia.
pandemic
Yeah.
was somewhat later, and so the year-on-year growth is faster and so on. But also it's organic, it's just organic growth that Viator's been generating in that region. We're seeing people willing to take longer haul travel and book it further in advance, which is a great sign for the health of the market as well, because it means there's confidence in their ability to take long haul trips. Partly because of that, we're seeing earlier booking windows, so the distance between booking and travel is lengthening. That's an interesting trend, actually, because largely we saw it going in the opposite direction.
Very last minute. And this is a historically last minute market too, right?
People in destination booking last minute, especially on either the mobile web or the app. But actually, we've seen this year going the other direction, and long haul is part of that, but also this idea that experiences is starting to define where and when people travel is taking hold a little bit. And experiences are a very key driver of why people travel in the first place.
Yeah. So this growth in Asia, just to go back a little bit, you said Asia's the fastest growing, Japan, Taiwan, a couple others. Is that coming at the expense of North America and Europe?
No. Interestingly, during the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, our business was, the majority of our business, I wouldn't say all of it, there's significant other parts, but the majority was US travelers going to Europe. And during the pandemic, that changed completely. It became US travelers going to US, European travelers staying in Europe, right? More local travel as far as, intra-US can be local. It can still be 6-hour flight sometimes, but whatever. US to US. Now that business was very big for us during the pandemic, but it's persisted, it's stayed. Some of our most popular destinations are the outdoor locations.
We've got a clip playing of some of your many experiences.
Some of these, Moab, Alaska, outdoor, right? National parks, right? These were very popular during the pandemic and are still now. But more and more we're seeing, as the pandemic lifts and so on, people going back to urban environments or exploring urban destinations, and the popular things in, famous things in famous places is still very, very big for us.
So let's dive into, I guess, we've got your top 15 attractions in Paris, Eiffel Tower, Louvre. Those are kind of, I guess, to a bit what I would expect to see for like the top experiences in Paris. Like, what are the Tuileries, River Seine. What are the most popular categories and growth experiences that you're seeing?
Famous things in famous places will always be a popular thing on our website. But the areas that we're seeing popping as hotspots are things like cooking classes, for instance, where you learn a skill at the same time as being entertained and eat nice food afterwards. Photography classes. This is another big area where we see a lot of growth. Now, it's smaller than famous things in famous places, but these are the things that are that are popular at the moment on Viator.
What's your favorite experiences on Viator?
Oh, I've been sampled a number of excellent experiences. I did a taco tour in Mexico City. Highly recommend that. Very, very, very a lot of fun. Surfboard, or what would you say, like
surfing?
Sandboarding down a dune.
Oh,
you can do this. Like, has anybody done this? Yeah,
I've seen it. I've seen it done.
Rock climbing. I'm an avid rock climber. Well, avid whenever I can.
Whenever you can.
Yeah.
Rock climbing.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of rock climbing tours to book on Viator?
It's actually an increasingly popular category. Yeah. Would you like to do some?
I would love to.
If this interview goes well, I won't drop you off the cliff.
We'll see. Yeah. All right. I'll make sure I'm tied in before I climb with you.
Oh yeah, that won't be a problem. Don't worry.
Can I ask a question about your marketplace?
Sure.
I think of Viator, and I'll admit, to being a bit of a New York hipster, right? You want to do some of these less well-known experiences. You want to go rock climbing. You want to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think of Viator as being kind of like mass market. You know what I mean? I think of it as like, if I want to book the Louvre, or the Empire State Building, I wouldn't necessarily think of rock climbing on Viator. Like, I mean, do you think I'm off there, or is that an issue you think about in your marketing?
I think you are perhaps a little bit off.
You can push back.
On that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, throughout the last decade, let's take Airbnb as an example. Right. The last decade, people have thought of, to some degree, and it's lessening over time, Airbnb as initially a sort of shared room type of thing, and that persisted long after they became majority of their business was whole home, and that idea persisted long after their business started including property managers and then started including so there's been an evolution of that business, and that's probably true in a lot of categories. So we have all these famous things to do that you are aware of and part of our history, but we also have 300,000 other things to do that are all the more unique experiences that you won't find anywhere else. And we have many more of those experiences than any other single platform. So a lot of them are unique, and you simply won't find them. And there's some, those hidden gems. Now we need to do a better job, I think, of revealing that and helping discovery, the sort of serendipitous discovery that is very joyful in travel. We've got more work to do there, but we've got all the potential to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking it up before we came on stage today. You have 1,500 experiences to book in New York City today.
Yeah.
I can only do 3 of those. So you sort of
3 per day, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
After this, I've got something. I'm gonna go. We'll go up to the Gunks and do some rock climbing.
Let's do it.
It's a paradox of choice, right? How is your company? Is that a big challenge for your company? How are you thinking about? All right, how do you personalize? How is Viator approaching personalization?
That's an excellent question. I'd much rather have the problem of taking 1,500 and using product and using the tools at your disposal to reveal the ones that you think your customer is going to want, rather than having 10 products and having to get to a level of choice that's acceptable. So it's a good challenge to have, is the first thing to say. But we're right at the early stage of that journey of personalization across the products that we show on our site, and of making it as absolutely as relevant as possible to the user that is on the site. It takes an unbelievably massive amount of data to do this, which is why, across the entire travel industry, you think, well, personalization, right? That should be something everyone is doing, but it takes just an unbelievably massive amount of data to segment user groups in a way that that allows you to personalize effectively. And we're along that journey, but we have much further to go, and all that opportunity is upside for us.
The big word is AI. It's a mega trend. Any AI plans at TripAdvisor?
So that's the expression on everyone's lips. But we are already putting AI to use, but I would say probably at the moment in the more obvious areas of business processes and efficiency, things like our customer service. We deal with a lot of inbound customer service from travelers and suppliers alike, and giving better service is an enormous part of what we have to do in order to maintain our business, especially to drive repeat rates. So using AI in customer service, using it in our engineering and product, so using it for efficiency purposes, really. I think, though, the key for possibly for any travel business, certainly for ours, is how do you find a way to use AI to enhance your differentiation? How do you use it to enhance your differentiation? And for us, we have hundreds of thousands of products, and we have to do a better job in revealing the right ones. And so AI can be put to use there.
What do you see as your differentiation?
Well, that's one example. We also power the storefront of TripAdvisor, which is, as you know, like the largest community.
One of the most visited travel websites in the world, right?
And so if you see a bookable experiences product on TripAdvisor, you're actually seeing a Viator product behind the scenes that's powering that. And if you call up the TripAdvisor experiences customer service line, you're actually calling people. So we have that as a massive differentiator as well. And like I was saying earlier, when it's a joint effort to get to the levels of revenue that we have, this is having access to a storefront like that. Suppliers really want it. Suppliers really want to see their product on TripAdvisor and have it online bookable.
So the online bookable tours and experiences space, the online tours OTAs, it's a lot more competitive space than it was just 5 or 10 years ago. You've got some very well-funded competitors. Do you think that's your main differentiator against them, or how do you think, do you lose sleep over some other competitors?
Actually, I delight in that there is so much energy in the sector. It validates what we're doing. Certainly, there are competitors who are well organized and well funded, and we have the greatest respect for them. But we have a 1% market share here, or very, very small market share. And competitors all have small market share. This is a huge market with plenty of room for growth from all quarters at the moment. So we're only 1% in here, and I think personally, the thing I think personally about competition is we're going to be much more affected by and benefit from being able to change how the consumer perceives this sector and how aware they are of this sector versus like scrimping and stealing between existing players.
I see an audience question. We've normally said them trends, but I think it works here. With so much money being raised in the experiences space, is consolidation inevitable? I mean, do you think about consolidation? You've done some M&A in your past careers. Would you buy anyone?
Is it inevitable? I think about the traveler, the supplier, and the partners, and solving problems for them. And if it results ultimately in consolidation, then so be it. But it's not what we as operators focus on a day-to-day basis. To answer this question in like a more direct way, I would certainly look at like what's happened in hotels, hotel OTAs, and that has gone through a 2-decade history of consolidation. Right now, though, like I said, every player has relatively small market share. There's a lot of growth on offer. And so the rationale for kind of near-term consolidation is less pressing than were it a more mature market. But over time, in
a lot of white space is kind of what you're saying. Like you don't necessarily need to go inorganic if there's so much organic.
Right. Yes.
You were talking about, you were saying earlier actually, talking about like consumer awareness of the space and consumer discovery. I think when Skift Research started covering this, the conversation was all about supply. Is the conversation about demand these days? Is it about how to generate demand and drive awareness to online bookable experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the traveler side, we have this incredible opportunity to shape how travelers see this entire category. It's not just our opportunity, it's the opportunity of every player in the experiences space. When we do research, we describe our proposition to members of the public or to travelers, and 90% of the people we survey say, your proposition sounds amazing, I love it. And only 74% of those people think that proposition simply doesn't exist in the world. Right? We are doing $1 billion of gross bookings a quarter, and we have people who are 90% in favor of our proposition, but most of them don't know it even exists. Never mind the name Viator. So that is the challenge, probably one of our biggest challenges that we're up against. How do we change that perception? And if we can change that perception, how big an opportunity is that?
Is the move to like sponsor a Super Bowl ad or something like that, or how do you do that?
Well, this is 2023, so 2024.
2024.
Yeah. Wow, you gotta get with the time.
I'm still writing 2023 and everything too.
Even if it was 2023, no, we have like a very broad spectrum of marketing activity. Everything from lower funnel right through to upper funnel and everything in between. And so, one kind of headline, bet the farm on a single channel is usually not a way that success happens, and not reliably anyway. But we're investing heavily across the board in both brand and in lower funnel and mid funnel.
How is Google Things to Do working for you in terms of driving awareness?
This is a very interesting space. So Google, to some degree, you might consider them a partner for us. They certainly send us a lot of traffic, and they are very good at presenting product options and so on. And we have the booking mechanics, and so there is a partnership to be struck there. And on the other hand, they're also somewhat competitive to us because we also are a search and discovery platform. So we have actually kind of taken the decision to partner with them, to cooperate, and to sort of help shape the product that they're using. Now, they've had a number of different they've had a number of different attempts in this product, and they're moving in a different direction now to where they were back in 2018 when the energy first started to mount over Google in Things to Do. But we have a strong partnership with them, and we think in general it's a force for good in this sector and raising the awareness of, well, you don't just have to have a basic entry ticket to a point of interest. You can do a tour of that point of interest, and Google is helping with that.
So I think one of the big themes of this entire conversation is about like the importance of experiences and how, I think we even have some data from our Millennial and Gen Z survey we just did at Skift Research, and basically they're telling us they want experiences. They care about experiences, wellness, culinary, cultural. It's really, really important to them. And one of the things we were talking about kind of behind the stage is sort of, is the travel funnel flipping, right? Instead of people saying, I know I really want to go to Paris, they say, I know I really want to go to rock climbing, and the best rock climbing in the world is...
Oh, that would be controversial.
Okay.
For me, it's Jackson Hole.
Jackson Hole. So then they say, okay, I'm going to go to Jackson Hole because I want to go rock climbing, not the other way around. Yeah. Do you think you can do anything to kind of, is that something you're seeing in terms of the reversal of the funnel?
Well, like I was saying, the lengthening distance between the booking and the travel does suggest some of that. And we certainly see that the longest booking windows are in the more headline or like what you might say tentpole type experiences, the ones that sell out, the ones that are really make your entire vacation. I think there'll always be a market for the more kind of fill in. You've got 3 hours here. What shall I do? Right, that serendipitous discovery is also a really cool element of travel that we're embracing a lot with our app and But the idea that certain events or travel experiences can really shape where people travel and how they travel is an amazing trend for a company like us. Yeah.
Rafit.
Ben, I have a question for you. So, the Airbnb tried experiences didn't work for them. Do you think the person-to-person experience part, which you would think in 2024 would exist because internet exists and ability to create these custom things that are distributed to platforms like yours, has a long-tail audience somewhere? What would it take for person-to-person things being? What would it take for person-to-person tours to become successful?
So, yeah, just to, we got the tail end of it. I want to just rephrase the question for everyone online. Rafa was asking, one of your competitors, Airbnb Experiences, they do these person-to-person tours. They get these individual hosts. It's these super cool, unique experiences where you get into someone's home. What would it take for? What do you make of that business, and what would it take for you to launch something like that on Viator?
Yeah, it's probably better directed at Brian Chesky, perhaps, but...
I'm saying from your, forget what they're doing, but do you think in 2024 these individual person, I want to be people want to be online creators, YouTubers, right?
Yeah.
That's a whole thing. Shouldn't that category exist in a large fashion?
The challenge with scale in that category, I think, is that the depth of inventory is very shallow. If you think about a bus tour, a bus which lasts, say, a couple of hours, right? You can fit up to 50 people on a bus. There can be multiple buses doing the same route. There's going to be a whole industry, and the depth of availability in that tour is substantial. If you're doing a peer-to-peer experience, that might be, if you're lucky, once a day for one group of people with one tour, and it might only be once a week or once a month. This isn't unusual. So the depth of availability is just not significant enough to do it, or it's not easy to make a scaled business out of that. And you have to start acquiring unbelievably large amounts of unique products, all of which have a very shallow depth of availability in order to do something at scale, and the cost of acquisition starts to become a big challenge for you at that point. So, I think that business model, it's not the direction that we have chosen to go, although we do have a lot of organic supply that has simply come to us and said, you guys drive so much demand, you can help us fill seats and fill availability. So we have a lot of that supply, we just don't rely on it for scale. Yeah.
Would, speaking of supply acquisition, just to make a little segue here, I mean, how do you deal with, do you have good, what's the supplier feedback on your platform these days? I know there's sometimes some back and forth. Do suppliers want to go direct just to their customers and kind of cut you guys out?
We actually have an unbelievable pipeline of new supply signing up all the time. So much so that we put a fee on new products back, I think, in 2020.
Yeah.
Now, only a small fee. I think it's $29 for a new product. So a supplier would make, or a product would make this back on one sale. But we had to do it because there were so many new products coming onto the platform, like flooding onto the platform. And it's actually quite a lot of work to turn a new product into an excellent product. You have to review it, you have to add to it, you have to communicate with the supplier and give them feedback on all kinds of areas, which we do. And so, instead of focusing on volume, which we already have an enormous amount of, we started focusing much more on quality and nurturing the existing supply base to raise them from average to good and good to excellent, and from unacceptable to, raising the quality of each of the suppliers in turn.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. I was going to ask on the supplier dynamics, one of the things we were talking about is this market is still very offline. Do you still have the issue where the guy who runs the surf tours doesn't want to be logging stuff online, or if people come around to understanding the importance of being online?
I think more and more people are understanding the importance of being online, but we're still early in the journey. And there are tools out there that help small suppliers come online, and we're connected with all those tools. And so that ecosystem is sort of starting to exist and starting to get high quality over time. I think what will happen probably is, if you had to take your example, you have a surf operator or something, and say there are 5 surf operators in a destination and 4 of them don't want to be online and 1 does, well, share will go from the 4 to the 1, and the second one will go,
wait a second,
I need to, and that kind of natural Another way it could happen is there's exits from the market and entrances to the market quite frequently in this space, and so new entrants have a different disposition towards on. So there's a number of mechanics on which that could happen. But overall, the ecosystem of which we're a part is really evolving to help operators get online in a big way.
So we're like 20 years behind hotels and airlines. When you look back at these other markets, are there mistakes that you think that other hotel online travel agencies or airline online travel agencies have made that you were trying to avoid in your offline to online journey?
I think it would be risky to too closely associate I know I've already done it in this interview, but it is a risk to too closely associate the evolution of experiences with hotels and flights. I think that the evolutions will rhyme, but they won't be the same. And so some of the differences that we have to contend with versus what hotels may have had to contend with 10 years prior is mobile is already an incredibly highly penetrated. I worked at Expedia in the late 2000s, and there was no mobile app at the time. We were creating the first mobile app for Expedia back in those days, and that is already a very highly penetrated space, and the penetration of smartphones is incredibly different to what it was when hotels was going through the same evolution. So there are challenges and differences in the way that we're tackling it now versus how an Expedia or a Booking.com. There are also a lot of similarities, the kind of symbiosis between marketing and product, between Google and the landing page that you get on from Google. Right? That relationship is still a very strong one. And so, similarities and differences.
All right, I think we're out of time, but rhymes but doesn't repeat exactly. Really excited for the future of experiences and online and all those trends that are powering you. Thanks for joining us, Ben.
Thank you.
For